All right, we got a lot to talk about today. Pete Alonso came out. David Stern suggested that since he's a Scott Boras guy, he's going to hit free agency. Pissing a lot of Mets fans off. I'm here to tell you to not be pissed off. It's smart. Long term, I'm not saying the Mets shouldn't bring him back in the offseason. I'm not saying I hate Pete Alonso or I think he sucks. I think Pete Alonso is one of the best power hitters in baseball, but I do agree with David Stearns that we shouldn't overspend and extend him before the season starts. Play it out. Let's see how he does this year, and we'll see what happens in the offseason. I think we will get him back, though, and I will be talking about that to start the show. I'm going to be also talking some Yanks a little bit later today. I'm going to be talking some football, some Jets, some Giants, and, of course, the Super Bowl breakdown as well. Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes are the best duo of all time. Pat Mahomes not the best quarterback of all time. Still Tom Brady. And I think at the end of his career, it will be Brady, considering not only Brady has 7 rings, but he also has the win over Mahomes. But best duo of all time. I mean, Brady and Gronk, yeah, they're obviously up there. But Kelce and Mahomes, dude, they're that good. But let's get into the New York sports. Pete Alonso came out today. He's testing free agency. He's not getting a deal done before this offseason. It was already said that he's not getting the deal done during the season because he just wants to focus on winning, and that's what the Mets should focus on. They shouldn't focus on contracts in the offseason. They should be focusing on the season in the offseason. That's what great players do, and that's why Pete Alonso is saying, hey, let's wait. Let's wait. Pete Alonso's taking a gamble on himself, similar to what Aaron Judge did a few years ago. Now, is Pete Alonso going to go out there and hit 62 home runs? No, he's not. But can he drive up his price tag this year? Hell, yes, he can. If he has a year like he did in 2022, where he hit 271, he hit 40 home runs and led the league in RBIs with 131 RBIs, then guess what? He's going to get paid like one of the best hitters in baseball. But if he has a year like he did in 2023, where he had a 217 batting average, but he still hit over 100 RBIs, still hit over 40 home runs, but the 217 batting average, no. 2022 Pete Alonso, that's the best, one of the best hitters in baseball, not the best hitter in baseball, one of the best hitters in baseball. 2023 Pete Alonso, one of the best power hitters in baseball. See the difference? Just that one word. He is still, yes, one of the best power hitters in all of baseball, top 5 power hitters in baseball. But in 2022, what was the difference between 2022 and 2023, Alonso? Top 10 hitter, pure hitter. He was a dangerous threat every time he stepped up to the plate in 2022. But in 2023, pitchers didn't fear him as much as they did in 22. Something was off. Now, hopefully that gets fixed now that Eric Chavez is the hitting coach once again. Not only did Alonso play great under Eric Chavez, but Lindor played great, and Lindor played great last year too, and we're going to get into Lindor later. But Alonso played great under Eric Chavez as the hitting coach. Now, with Chavez back, I'm hoping that Alonso can get back to that 2022 self. And if he does, well, then guess what? The Mets are going to have to offer him big money. And we're going to get into the contract that I would give him right now. I want you to comment. If you're watching on Twitter or YouTube, comment what you would give Pete Alonso right now. Because right now, this is what I would offer him, and this is what I think he's going to get. I think he's going to get an 8-year deal somewhere in the realm of 2 to 225. So I met in the middle. I'm going 215. I'm not sure if that's not the middle. Middle would be like 212 or something, like 213, whatever it is. I'm not a mathematician, but I'd give him this. 8 years, 215 mil. Makes him one of the highest paid first basemen in baseball. And I think that's I think that's what he's going to get. I don't think he's going to have a year like he did in 2023 where he hit 217. And I don't think he's going to have a year like he did in 2022 where he hit 271. I think he's still going to hit over 40 home runs. I think he's going to drive in over 100 runs. But I think he's going to finish with like a 250 batting average, 260. And that's going to get him an 8-year deal. That's what he wants. He wants an 8-year deal. So if he has a year like he did in 2022, where he was not only one of the best power hitters, but he was one of the best hitters in baseball all around, he's going to get that big contract from the Mets. Even if he hits 40, even if he has a year like 2023 where he hits just 40 plus home runs, but the lackluster batting average, he's still going to re-sign with the Mets. Why? Because look what the Mets did just last offseason. Everyone was like, oh, Edwin Diaz and Brandon Nimmo, they're going to hit free agency and the Mets are going to lose them. And what happened? Before Edwin Diaz even got the chance to test the open market, that 5-day period, the Mets snagged him, made him the highest paid relief pitcher in baseball. Brandon Nimmo, before January, what'd they do? 8 years, $162 million. You're telling me they're not going to give Pete Alonso, the fan favorite, the franchise guy right now? It's Lindor and Alonso. Those two are the franchise guys. You go into Citi Field, you see two jerseys. You see Lindor and you see Alonso. Every now and then you'll see a Nimmo and a McNeil, and every now and then you'll see maybe like that Starling Marte or Kodai Senga jersey. I got a Kodai Senga jersey, but majority of Mets fans, it's Lindor and Alonso. Lindor's locked up long-term. There's one more you need to lock up long-term, and that's Alonso. And even though he's a Scott Boras guy and he's going to hit that open market, the Mets are still going to bring him back because Brandon Nimmo was also a Scott Boras guy. He hit the open market, and he signed 8 years, $162 million. Pete Alonso will be a Met for life. David Stern said it literally the day he took the job as president of baseball operations with the Mets. His first press conference, one of the first questions they asked him, what's the plan for Pete Alonso? He's going to be the opening day first baseman, and we're going to do everything we can to make him our first baseman long term. So Pete Alonso, as much as everybody is worried that he's going to hit the open market, don't be. Because we got the richest owner in baseball. And he already brought back Brandon Nimmo and Edwin Diaz when they hit the open market. So don't be worried. And Alonso, like I said, that contract prediction right there, if you want to, drop in the comments what you think that prediction will be, what that contract will look like. Because I think Alonso is going to get 8 years. And I think it's going to be between 200 and 225. Let's get into more Mets topics. Francisco Alvarez, I was talking about it in a space earlier today with Keith from Shea and Sons podcast. Shout out Shea and Sons. Keith and Key doing a great job over there. I also talked about Sean Manaea, how they got me on the Sean Manaea wave. But yeah, Francisco Alvarez undoubtedly has 30 home run, maybe even 40 home run plus potential. He's got that much pop in his bat. He's an elite talent. Just like Pete Alonso, he's could be one of the best power hitters in baseball. Now that's his stat line last year right up there. 209 batting average, lackluster. 25 home runs, love to see it, especially out of a rookie catcher that's just 21 years old. 63 RBIs, that's great. Now, he's going to be here all year. He's undoubtedly the everyday catcher. But who's the backup? Because this guy, we can't just burn him out. He's that talented. He's that talented of a power bat that I don't want to burn him out catching 110 to 120 games a year. Now, if he can catch like maybe 80 to 100 and he can still play in 150 to 155 games, that's what I would like. Because he's got a DH at some points. When he's getting an off day catching, he's still got to be in the lineup. This load management that Buck Showalter was talking about, which we're going to get into that too, Buck's drama. Load management should apply to some guys. And Francisco Alvarez, I think, is one of those guys. Now, I'm not saying you take him out of the lineup every day, but every now and then you got to give him a break from catching. And now is it going to be Kevin Parado who gets called up? Is it going to be Omar Narvaez who finally figures it out? I don't know. But the Mets need to figure out a plan where they don't burn Francisco Alvarez out come the end of the year. Because I love how Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso both playing 155-plus games the past 2 seasons. But come playoff time in 2022, what happened? The Mets look burnt out. That series against the Braves, they look burnt out. I'm not saying take them out of the lineup after they go 3 for 4 and they hit 2 triples like Brandon Nimmo did and Buck had to go into the locker room and tell Brandon Nimmo he had to sit down the next night. No. But when when they need a day off, they need a day off. So I don't want to see Lindor and Alonso and Nimmo and McNeil and Marte get burnt out come the end of the year because they're playing in 155 plus games. I love to see it. Don't get me wrong. I love that they have that durability to do it. But if they don't need to, I don't think we should have them do it. And the biggest guy that I think they should load manage this year is Francisco Alvarez. Because he has that potential to be the guy that can protect Pete Alonso and Lindor. Mets fans have been dying to have someone protect Pete Alonso and Lindor. We've been saying, sign Jorge Soler, sign JD Martinez. We wanted Justin Turner. But in reality, the one guy that could turn out to be the guy that we need to offer those two protection, that could turn out to be another elite bat, another all-star bat in that Mets lineup, that guy is Francisco Alvarez. As much as I love Starling Marte's potential to have a bounce-back year and he could be an all-star again, it's Francisco Alvarez that is the potential X factor in this Mets lineup. Because if he turns it on this year, if he breaks out this year, then the Mets, they have one of the best lineups in the National League. Maybe not one of the best lineups in the NL East because the NL East is loaded. The Braves and the Phillies are loaded. But the Mets can still have a top lineup in the NL. And they can compete with those two, especially if Francisco Alvarez has a breakout year. Now, yes, power was there last year 100%. But that 209 batting average, it needs to rise up. And if he can hit 250, 270, and give us 25 plus, I'll take it. I'll take it. Now, here's my prediction for Alvarez. I think he's going to hit 250, 254 this year, somewhere in that 250, 270 range, like I said before. I think he's going to hit 30 plus home runs, and I think we're going to see an 80 plus RBI year out of this kid. Like I said, we want a guy to protect Pete and Lindor, but the guy that could do it that's already on this team, Francisco Alvarez. Now, yeah, it could be Vientos or it could be Beatty, maybe one of those guys. But in reality, none of those guys were the top prospect, the number one prospect in all of baseball a year ago. It was Francisco Alvarez. So that's why I'm putting my money on Alvarez to have a breakout season. Boom. Right there. Let's go over more Mets lineup decisions because it looks like Bader's going to be our starting center fielder, which means Nimmo is probably going to slide over to the left. Number 2 rated left fielder according to MLB.com. That was pretty cool. But Nimmo, I think he's going to have a good year. Yeah, I mean, that's given. Harrison Bader, I think he's probably going to have a decent year. He's going to offer us some good defense, which is great. Stearns he prioritizes having good defenders up the middle. And the Mets, they have pretty good defenders up the middle. Lindor, Gold Glover, we all know he's elite. One of the best shortstops, if not the best defensive shortstop in all baseball. Harrison Bader, probably a top 5 center fielder defensively in baseball. That's great. Second base, McNeil, I would love to see it, the defense improve out of him, but at this point in his career, he is what he is defensively. But this outfield, Marte, obviously, I said it a few minutes ago. Just like Alvarez, I mean, he's a little bit of the opposite because he's a veteran, but he still could be a guy that is technically an upgrade if you think about it, because last year we didn't have 2022 Starling Marte. 2022 Starling Marte was one of the reasons, if not one of the biggest reasons, that they won 101 games. Last year, he sucked. He sucked. It's the best way to put it. He was terrible. I don't know what happened to him. Something was in his head, but he sucked. 248 batting average, 625 OPS. That's terrible. In 2022, he was elite. He was an all-star. We need that Marte. We get that Marte. This outfield is actually pretty good. Pretty good. All right. Last Mets topic. Take a break. Get into some Yankees. Francisco Lindor. Lindor, I'm expecting another big year out of him. I think he had the best year he had with the Mets all year throughout his Mets career last year. Short Mets career, only 3 years so far. But I think he's really getting comfortable. He's really getting comfortable over here in Queens. Last 80 games of 2023, 284 batting average, 15 home runs, 44 RBIs. If we get that Lindor for a full year, and now I'm not saying last year he didn't have all year. Look at the numbers. Last year, 2023, Lindor was a top shortstop. He was an all MLB shortstop. 30-30. He was a beast. But in the last 80 games, the second half, that's when Lindor really turned it up. If we get that Lindor for a full season, the Mets are going to make the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs. And Lindor will be an MVP candidate. He has MVP potential. I've said it since the Mets have traded for him. Francisco Lindor has the talent, has the ability to win an MVP. He is that good. But he's inconsistent at times. I cannot ignore that. But over the last 80 games of 2023, he was pretty consistent. And he was probably the best, second best, right after Corey Seager. But he was arguably the best shortstop in all of baseball the last 80 games. That's what Lindor can be. And if we get that for a full year, not only will he be an MVP candidate, but the Mets will be in the postseason. He's that good. Lindor is that good. Now, I'm not saying he's going to win the MVP, but I've been saying it since we've traded for him. He has it in him. He does have it in him. Last year, undoubtedly his best year. Second half, he was the best shortstop in baseball. We get that for a full year. Mets are going to the playoffs. Let's go over to the DH, and then we'll get into the Yankees. Jorge Soler wants at least 3 years. If he wants 3 years and he's going to get 3 years, stay away from it. Last year, he was great, 30-plus home runs. Probably had the best year of his career. But he's also 31. He's had 11 years. It took him 11 years to have that type of year. I'm not saying that he's going to have that year for the next 3 years. I would stay away. So that gets me into my next guy, J.D. Martinez. I wrote a piece on it just last week. J.D. Martinez is a perfect fit with the Mets. Perfect fit. You got guys like Vientos. You got guy like Beatty. You got guys like Francisco Alvarez. You got all these young guys that you want to have them make an impact for the Mets eventually in the future. Not only can J.D. Martinez help you now, but he's not going to take away at bats from those guys, one. And two, he could help those young guys. And he could be the DH for this year. He could help the Mets in 2023. That's really the simple answer. Why is he a perfect fit with the Mets? Because he would help them win in 2024. Down the road, is he going to affect the Mets? No, because it would only take a 1 or 2 year deal. Guy's 38. And guess what? I'm not going to say he's washed, because guess what? He's 3 years in a row, he's made the All-Star team. 3 consecutive years. J.D. Martinez is the furthest thing from washed up. Just last year, 33 home runs, over 100 RBIs, 271 batting average. Lindor, Alonso, J.D. Martinez, Francisco Alvarez. 4 guys right there who have 30-plus home run potential. He makes the Mets lineup a playoff lineup. Mets, go out there and sign J.D. Martinez. Complete this lineup. What do you guys think? Should the Mets sign J.D. Martinez? I think he's a great fit here. But then again, I'm not David Stearns. So only time will tell. Spring training starts tomorrow. So I don't think he's going to get signed before spring training. But before the regular season starts, they got to figure out what they're going to do with the DH. Is it Vientos? Is it Beatty? Or do they go out there and they get a veteran like J.D. Martinez who would help them win in 2024, which is the most important thing. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Going to get into some Yankees. Judge and Cole, they really want Blake Snell. He's still available. The Yankees apparently are the only team to make an offer. So should they go get him? Going to be talking about Joe Girardi potentially taking over as the Yankees manager following the season. Because if Aaron Boone don't make the World Series, he's going to be on the hot seat. He's going to be on the hot seat. Time is running up for him. Gleyber Torres is going to be talking about him as well next on the James Nolan podcast. But the Jets need a backup quarterback in 2024. Gardner Minshew will be available. Gardner Minshew is the guy that they should get. Gardner Minshew actually almost got the Colts into the playoffs. Yes, he had a little debacle at the end of the year, but it's not all on him. One, he's 27 years old, so he can move around a little bit. He's not going to be like a Tim Boyle or a Trevor Semien, a guy who's going to be just standing there. And also, he had a 62.2 completion percentage, 3,300 yards in 2023, 15 passing touchdowns, and how many interceptions? Let's see. Only 9, 15-9. So if Aaron Rodgers does go down with an injury and it was Gardner Minshew who stepped in, you'd be a lot more confident than a lot of the other backup options. Ideally, it would be Mike White, but that's not happening. He signed a 2-year deal. He's going to be with Miami. Gardner Minshew is the guy that the Jets should go out there and get as their backup. Now, there are other options. They could go get Sam Darnold, another former Jets quarterback who will be available in free agency. There are other backup options, and they could always go out there and draft a future guy, maybe in the second or the third round. But what I think that they should do, and I think the best move, the best backup that will be available in the offseason in free agency is Gardner Minshew. He almost took the... yeah, Jets, go get Gardner Minshew because you need a backup quarterback. Woody Johnson just said it last week. They didn't have a backup quarterback. More shots taken at Zach Wilson. Poor Zach Wilson. Just the Jets hate him, man. The Jets absolutely hate him. We're going to be talking about that after we get into some Yankees topics. What are the Yankees going to do? Spring training, obviously, I just said, starts tomorrow. Not spring training games, but pitchers and catchers. Pitchers and catchers. The Yankees, do they need one more pitcher? This team is elite. I think they are the favorites to win the AL East. I think they should be the favorites to win the American League. Judge, Soto, Gleyber, Torres, Anthony Rizzo, DJ LeMahieu, Anthony Volpe, if he steps it up this year. This lineup is stacked. The bullpen, we know they have the best bullpen in baseball. Their rotation, Garrett Cole, best pitcher in baseball, coming off his first Cy Young ever. You got Nestor Cortez, who you're banking on to have a bounce back year. Same thing with Carlos Rodon. Two guys who have all-star potential. They have all-star potential. So you have Cole, Cortez, and Rodon, three guys who have all-star potential. Marcus Stroman, he's going to give you a sub-4 ERA and at least 30 starts. And then you have Clark Schmidt sitting there at your 5. Clark Schmidt, bump up to the bullpen and bring in Blake Snell. Make that bullpen even more elite and bring in Blake Snell and make that rotation the best rotation in baseball. Because the Dodgers, yes, they're loaded. They are loaded. But if the Yankees, if they go out there and get Blake Snell, that evil empire goes back to the Yankees. It's not the Dodgers because the Dodgers haven't won crap. They won a COVID World Series. Congratulations. You won the 2020 World Series. You won the Mickey Mouse Award. Congrats. The Yankees, if they want to be the evil empire again, they go out there and they sign Blake Snell. Blake Snell, Garrett Cole. Best 1-2 punch in baseball. Best 1-2 punch in a long time in MLB. It's hard to find aces. It's hard to find real aces today. And Blake Snell, he's a real ace. Garrett Cole, he's a real ace. You get the two of them at the top of your rotation. Come playoff time, Cole and Snell. That's a 2-0 series right there against the Houston Astros. Because Cole's not losing and Snell's not losing. Go out there and get Blake Snell. Judge and Cole want him. I want him on the Yankees because I actually like when the Yankees do well. I like when both New York teams do well. I like the banter. I like going back and forth at each other with Yankees and Mets fans. Go out there and get Blake Snell and be that evil empire again. Should the Yankees be the favorites to win the AL East? Yeah, they should. Orioles are great. Yeah, congrats. You got Corbin Burns. But guess what? Corbin Burns, he's been on the down. I still think he's going to have a good year. I still think he might be an all-star, but he's going on the down. The Yankees, on the other hand, if they get Blake Snell, make them the favorites to win the AL East. And like I said, favorites to win the AL. But yes, they're the favorites to win the AL East because of that lineup, because of that bullpen, because of that rotation. But that lineup has a guy in it who really turned it up last year. Finally gave the Yankees fans what they knew he could do. Gleyber Torres in 2023, 273 batting average, 28.5 home runs, 68 RBIs. He has another year like that. I mean, it's going to get you to the playoffs. This Yankees team is loaded. LeMahieu, Gleyber Torres, Judge, Soto, Rizzo, Stanton. Volpe. Absolutely loaded. Yankees fans got to be excited for this year. They got to be excited. But one guy who's got to be nervous and butterflies are in his stomach is Aaron Boone, because Joe Girardi said that he wants to manage again. He's going to the Yes Network again. He wants to manage again after this year. And guess what? If Aaron Boone don't have a World Series appearance, if he don't win a pennant, I think he's going to be gone. And the first guy that Yankees fans are going to be calling for him to get replaced with is Joe Girardi. Because Joe Girardi never had a losing season with the Yankees, and he won a World Series with the Yankees in 2009. So Girardi, yes, the rumors are starting to circulate. They're coming up. We all know Yankees fans hate Boone. And Girardi got that ring with him in 2009. Never had that losing season with the Yanks. So who knows? Who knows? But that wraps up that Yankees topics. Quick on the Yankees, because the Yankees, when you suck like the Mets, because going into this year, the Yankees have a better outlook than the Mets. Let's just be real. Let's just be real with that. The Yankees have a much better outlook going into 2024 than the Mets. I will say that. A team who wants to have a good outlook heading into next year, but is starting to get a bad outlook, even though they're getting Rodgers back, is the Jets. They're a mess. Last week on the pod, I was going over how the Jets are a mess. I got that YouTube video up right now. You can go see it. Robert Saleh should be fired, but he's not. He's coming back. Jets took more shots at Zach Wilson when Woody Johnson came out and said the Jets didn't have a backup quarterback. That was the failure. Duh. I said it right after Rodgers went down. Trade for Sam Darnold. Trade for Sam Darnold. So, who should the Jets bring in to be their backup QB spot? You saw a video clip earlier on the pod if you were watching. Gardner Minshew is a guy who I think would be the most ideal fit. Came in for Anthony Richardson when he went down with the Colts, and he won games. The Colts finished 9-7. They didn't make the playoffs, but if Minshew was the backup for this Jets team, they would have made the playoffs. 3,300 yards in 2023, 15 touchdowns, only 9 interceptions. He is a productive quarterback that won't lose you games. He won't win you a game. Actually, he might lose you a few games, but he's a good quarterback and he can win ball games. That's what's most important. Another guy who's going to be available in free agency, New York Giants backup quarterback last year. Get me Tyrod Taylor in here. Bring Tyrod Taylor in the building, a nice veteran, a guy who can bear, he's not going to be on Aaron Rodgers' neck. He's not going to be breathing down his neck. And if Rodgers goes down and Tyrod Taylor takes over, Jets fans will still be confident with Tyrod Taylor throwing that football. Tyrod Taylor, I think he'd be, honestly, I said Minshew was my most ideal target for the backup spot. I think Tyrod Taylor would be my most ideal backup for the Jets going into next year. With him being available, with the success he had with the Giants last year, I would say Tyrod Taylor is the best option to be the Jets backup quarterback next year. Because if Rodgers goes down next year, if he misses a few games, like I said before last week's pod, Rodgers is going to miss a few games next year. I'm not saying he's going to miss the whole year with an Achilles tear again, but he's going to miss a few games. He's 40 years old. Tyrod Taylor will win you games. He will win you games. So go out there and sign Tyrod Taylor, New York Jets. Make him your backup quarterback. My fun backup, Sam Darnold. Almost got that Super Bowl ring. Almost, bud. Only if your coach knew the overtime rules, which you're going to be getting into that because that's a bunch of baloney. Sam Darnold will be a great backup. I wrote an article about it on Fansided right when Rodgers went down. Sam Darnold, trade for him. Why didn't they? They would have been in the playoffs with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold would have won you games. Breece Hall is a talented back. Going to be talking about that in a little bit too. Breece Hall's top 5 back in football. Sam Darnold would have gotten this Jets team to the playoffs this year. It's quite simple. So you want 3 backups? I just gave you 3. Sam Darnold, Tyrod Taylor, Gardner Minshew. One of those 3 should be the Jets backup quarterback for 2024 because when Rodgers goes down and one of those 3 have the ball, we'll still be confident. Because the defense is loaded. The offensive line needs some improvement. And we're going to be talking about on next week's pod some offensive linemen, some good fits from the draft and from free agency and the trade market that they can go after. They need no line, but they desperately need a backup quarterback. desperately need one. But whoever that backup quarterback is, if he does step into the game at all next year, he'll have Breece Hall to hand the ball off to him. Breece Hall is a top 5 running back in football. Not only, he was 4th in the NFL, not amongst running backs, but amongst running backs and receivers. He was right behind Tyreek Hill in scrimmage yards for 2023. 1,585. He went off. Breece Hall, off a torn ACL, was still a top 5 skilled position player in 2023, which is going to bring me into my next point. Yes, the Jets should trade for Davante Adams because Garrett Wilson, Davante Adams, and Breece Hall. And then you got Xavier Gibson, too, as your 3 wide receiver. That's some talent right there for Aaron Rodgers. Much better than Alan Lazard and Mecole Hardman, who had the game-winning Super Bowl catch. Former Jet with the game-winning Super Bowl catch. Even though he had, 1 catch with the Jets this year? But yeah, Jets go out there, trade for Davante Adams. Like I said, Breece Hall's a top 5 running back. Garrett Wilson, he's one of the most underrated wide receivers in football. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons with 7 different starting quarterbacks so far. So Davante Adams, Garrett Wilson, that's the best wide receiver duo in football right there. Best duo in football. More football talk, but let's flip it to the other side of MetLife Stadium. Saquon Barkley is hitting free agency. The Giants aren't going to franchise tag him just like they did last year. And he's likely going to sign with a new team. And one of those teams might be the Los Angeles Chargers. He said he has interest in playing for Harbaugh. Who knows? But I think Saquon Barkley won't be in a Giants uniform next year. Even though I think, honestly, if I was Joe Shane, I'd bring him back. Because next season, I think the Giants might be able to sneak into the playoffs, but that's another topic for another day, such as next week, we're going to be talking about the Giants potentially making the playoffs. But this week, we're going to be talking about the reshaping of the Giants, because the Giants can go 2 ways this offseason. They can bank on Daniel Jones, or they can build for the future and draft a new quarterback. And I think they're going to build for a future and draft a new quarterback, which is why Saquon Barkley will walk away. So Barkley walking away, Saquon Barkley replacement options. Well, Devin Singletary, former Buffalo Bill, a Brian Daboll guy. 2 Brian Daboll guys on this list I'm going to be going over. But Devin Singletary in 2023, 898 rushing yards. He had 4 rushing touchdowns. He's a guy that I think the Giants could bring in, especially, like I said, he is a Brian Daboll guy, former Buffalo Bill. Another former Daboll guy is Zach Moss. He's going to be a free agent this year. He had just over 700 rushing yards this year. He had a career year this year for him. But he's a guy that the Giants could bring in. Who knows? And then another option that they could use to replace Saquon Barkley is the in-house option, Eric Gray, who they picked in the 5th round last year. 5'7". He's young. He's got legs. He's fast as hell. But he's inexperienced. So if they're going to bank on him, why not? But we see it all the time. You don't need to be a top pick as a running back. You don't need to be a top pick in the draft to turn out to be a decent running back in the NFL. And half of it is offensive line. And the biggest issue with the Giants last year, not only was it the quarterback, but it was offensive line. So you fix the offensive line, then Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, or Eric Gray, they might be able to produce. And it's going to save you a whole lot of money because Saquon Barkley is going to be a lot of money. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't re-sign Barkley. I'm all for it. I think the Giants should. Especially if they draft a young quarterback. Wouldn't you want a guy like Barkley to have for him? But I don't think they're going to bring him back. So there's 3 guys who potentially could replace Barkley at the starting running back position. So that's going to get me to my next topic. I just mentioned quarterback there. Daniel Jones. He's got 1 more year to prove it. I feel like I say this every single year for the Giants for the last 5 years. Daniel Jones has 1 more year to prove he can be the franchise guy. And he's going to have a short leash. Especially if the Giants do trade up for that 3rd overall pick and take like Drake May or Jaden Daniels. Who knows? Even if they fall to them at 6 overall. Giants are probably taking a quarterback with their first pick in the draft. Who's it going to be? Is it Jaden Daniels? Is it Drake May? Who's it going to be? Let's go over those 2 guys right now. I think it should be Jaden Daniels. I'm not a big Drake May guy. But Daniel Jones, let's be quite frank, I don't think he is going to be the franchise guy. He's not. He's had a lot of time to prove it. He's had more and more opportunities. Yeah, he won a playoff game, but at the end of the day, That record is not good. All right. Jaden Daniels or Drake May. If you're a Giants fan, you would love to have either of these two guys. But if you had to pick one, and if I had to pick one, I would say go with Jaden Daniels out of LSU. Last year, the touchdown to interception ratio was insane. He completed over 70% of his passes, which is just unthinkable. He's talented. And he's got a cannon. He can move around in the pocket. And he's a winner. So I'd go out there and if Jaden Daniels is available, the Giants are going to take him. And why? It's because 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. We all know what Brian Daboll loves out of quarterbacks. Don't turn the ball over. Don't throw picks. And what Jaden Daniels didn't do in his last year with LSU, he didn't turn the ball over. And he threw 40 touchdowns. And he completed over 70% of his passes. Like I said, he's got a cannon. He can move around in the pocket. Daboll loves guys like that. Josh Allen was perfect for Brian Daboll. And Jaden Daniels, you can kind of, a player comp for him, I mean, is he going to be Josh Allen? No. But can you compare him? Does he have a little bit of similar traits to Josh Allen? Hell yeah, he does. So if Jaden Daniels is available at 6, or if the Giants trade up for 3, I think they're going to take Jaden Daniels. Because he seems like a Brian Daboll guy. So, and I think he'd be a great fit with Daboll too. So that's why I would say Jaden Daniels. But Drake May, another top quarterback in this year's draft out of UNC, over 3,600 passing yards, not as many passing touchdowns as Jaden Daniels, 24 passing touchdowns, 9 interceptions, pretty good ratio, but nothing like Daniels. He's playing lesser teams than Daniels too. Daniels competing in the SEC versus Drake May with UNC. He's not in the conference like the SEC. So obviously Daniels is, in my opinion, better than Drake May, but obviously the only way to tell who's going to be better is when they're both on the field. And Drake May, he's an intriguing option. He's talented. He's got an absolute cannon for an arm. I'd say a better arm than Jaden Daniels. But Jaden Daniels just seems like he's better at making reads. He's better at moving around in the pocket. And like I said, his physical traits remind me a lot of Josh Allen. And Daboll loves guys like Josh Allen. Daniel Jones was moving. When they made the playoffs last year, what did Jones do very well? He moved around in the pocket. He ran the ball well. What does Josh Allen do? Ran the ball well with Daboll. Didn't turn the ball over with Daboll, just like Jones did last year when they made the postseason. What does Jaden Daniels do? Moves around well. He's physical. And he's got a cannon, just like Josh Allen. Now, like I said, he's not going to be Josh Allen. He's not going to be the second best quarterback in the NFL. But I can see the comparisons. I see it. I understand it. Jaden Daniels is a perfect fit for Brian Daboll. So if Jaden Daniels is available at 6, or whether the Giants trade up, I think the best option for them this year in this draft is Jaden Daniels. And Joe Shane hasn't picked his quarterback yet. Brian Daboll hasn't picked his quarterback yet. So this is it. This is their opportunity. They're hoping to never be in this position in the draft again, because if they're in this position next year, it means they had a shitty year again. So go get Jaden Daniels, whether you trade up for him or whether you think he's going to slip to you at 6. He's the best option for the Giants quarterback. Maybe not in game 1, but down the road. Yeah, Jaden Daniels should be the guy. All right. Super Bowl was last night. The Chiefs won it 25-22 on a walk-off touchdown to former Jet Mecole Hardman. Woo! That was a great game. And I know the first half kind of sucked, had a lot of Rams and Patriots kind of comparisons, but when push came to shove, this Super Bowl was great. Overtime win. Both teams scored in overtime. It came down to the final play. And it was the most viewed telecast in the history of TV. Just came out on CBS Sports. So good for you, CBS. Good for you, NFL. And good for you, Patrick Mahomes, third Super Bowl with a chance to three-peat next year. First time ever that a quarterback won, or anybody has won back-to-back Super Bowl MVPs. Brady won back-to-back Super Bowls, never won back-to-back MVPs, though. Mahomes is a beast. At the end of his career, I still think Tom Brady will edge him as the GOAT because the GOAT beat him in the game of games. He beat him in the Super Bowl a few years ago. So Brady has that edge over Mahomes. But goddamn, everybody really knows that if you had to take one quarterback in the history of the NFL to lead your franchise to the Super Bowl, you ain't picking Tom Brady. You're picking Patrick Mahomes. Because just like Tom Brady, he don't get scared in the moment. He doesn't. The moment cannot be too big for Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes knows how to get the job done in the biggest spots. And he did it yet again for the third time in his young career, for the third time, and he's only 28 years old. Now, it sounds nuts saying another guy is going to catch up to Brady's ring count. They're going to get 7 Super Bowls. But you cannot say that this guy can't. Because 6 years in a row, he's been in the AFC Championship game. 5 years in a row. 5 out of the last 6 years. 4 out of the last 6 years, he's been in the Super Bowl. Mahomes and the Chiefs are that good. It's not even the Chiefs. It's Mahomes. Because this year, the Chiefs sucked. All regular season. You can go back on all my pods, though. I've been saying, hey, man, the Chiefs suck, but guess what? They get Patrick Mahomes. They're probably going to win the Super Bowl. That's it. That's how everybody's going to view this team as long as Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback. Hey, man, they could have Joe Schmo as their wide receiver next year. But guess what? They got Patrick Mahomes thrown to Joe Schmo. So they're a Super Bowl candidate. Patrick Mahomes is that good. The defense was lights out all year long, all postseason long, and in the biggest spots in that Super Bowl last night. But at the end of the day, they do not win that game without Patrick Mahomes. They do not win the AFC West without Patrick Mahomes. They do not win the AFC without Patrick Mahomes. Travis Kelce isn't Travis Kelce without Patrick Mahomes. Travis Kelce isn't dating Taylor Swift without Patrick Mahomes. Swifties aren't a part of the NFL without Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is the best quarterback to ever throw the football. Now, the most accomplished player of all time is undoubtedly Tom Brady. But like I said, one guy you can pick to lead your team to a Super Bowl out of all the players in the history of the NFL, you're taking Pat Mahomes 10 out of 10 times over Tom Brady. He's that good. And will the Chiefs three-peat? Probably. I thought Kelce was going to retire, but he's not, which leads me to my next topic on the Super Bowl. Is Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes the best duo of all time? The duos, not player, duos. And I think they are the best duo of all time, not just in the NFL, but in all of sports. Now we're talking Jordan and Pippen. I think they're the best duo of all time, undoubtedly. And now we're talking the Splash Bros with Clay and Steph. They're up there, if not better. They're the best duo of all time in the NFL. I think, yes, they are. I think the best duo of all time in the NFL was probably Brady and Gronk. And now it's Kelce and Mahomes. They got 3 rings just like they do together. Mahomes and Kelce not only is the best duo in the NFL, but they're the best duo of all time. I mean, not best duo of all time. Second best duo of all time, right after Jordan and Pippen. They passed the Splash Bros, and they're right behind Pippen and Jordan. One of the greatest duos of all time. I'd put them at number 2. Drop in the comments where you think you put them. The Knicks suck, man. They lost to the Rockets. How do you lose to the Houston Rockets? I get you're missing OG Anunoby and Julius Randle and Isaiah Hartenstein, but guess what? It's still the Houston Rockets. How'd they lose that game? They ended up losing, I think, by like 4 or 5 points. But Dante DiVincenzo, he shot the ball a whole lot, made like 5 threes, ended up with like 23 points, sucked in the second half, though. Jalen Brunson turned it up in the second half, sucked in the first quarter, couldn't make a shot for his life, couldn't buy a basket. but still finished with 27 points. He's a superstar. You can't knock Jalen Brunson at all. He's the reason that the Knicks are the 4 seed in the East with a chance to maybe, we're talking about them as an Eastern Conference final contender, and that's because of Jalen Brunson. So you can't knock Jalen Brunson. But we need OG Anunoby back, man. Now, when Julius Randle comes back, this team is really going to take off. But we really need OG back. We need his defense. We need it badly. So that's how I'll put it at that. And anybody who wants to say that we messed up on the RJ and freaking IQ trade for OG now because OG's out for 3 weeks, you're out of your mind. This team without RJ Barrett is completely different. I love RJ. He was great. He was phenomenal. He was fun to watch. He's still a great talent, but he did not help the Knicks win, man. He did not. OG Anunoby helps the Knicks win, and that's why we need him back badly. And we also need Julius Randle back. He's going to get reevaluated at the All-Star break. We'll see what happens with him, but there's really no more I can say on Julius Randle. We need him, and he's going to get reevaluated, and hopefully it's good. But Donte DiVincenzo, going into tonight, over his last 15 games, he's been scoring just under 20 a night. He might be scoring over 20 a night now, too, with his 23-point performance tonight. Probably the most underrated pickup all offseason. DiVincenzo is that good this year for us. He's the most underrated addition of all offseason in the NBA. I love what he's been doing for us, not only on the offensive end, 3-point wise, but on the defensive end, I think he's a little underrated too. He's all over. He's just like his Villanova buddy, Josh Hart. He puts in the work, and that's what New York fans want to see. So I love this Knicks team. Bogdanovich, again, another double-digit performance. Only had 1 3 tonight, but still, he played great. Bogdanovich played great, and he's going to be our Steve Novak this year. That's what I'm hoping for. Maybe not as lights out and as exciting as Steve Novak, but I'm hoping he can be something similar because the Bogdanovich, that addition right there, besides the other guy, Bogdanovich alone, Alec Burks, we know what he is. He's going to score off the bench for us. Congrats. But Bogdanovich, he's perfect. He's a perfect fit. He's going to spread the floor out for Jalen and Julius and OG. That's what we need him to do. We need this. We need more 3-point shooters. Donte DiVincenzo is great, but he's a high-volume guy. He needs to take a lot of shots to make a lot of shots. Bogdanovich, he doesn't need to take a lot of shots to make a lot of shots. He can take 7 to 10 shots, and he'll make 3 or 4 threes. He shoots well over 40% from deep. I love the addition of Bogdanovich. Now, like Stephen A was right, though, on ESPN last week. Is it a huge addition? No. But it's a great addition. It's not an all-star. It's not a superstar. It's not going to make us a finals contender, but it's going to bring us closer. Did it make us better? Yes. Did it make the Knicks better? Yes. Did it put the Knicks up there with the best of the best in the East? Yes. They have a deep team. Last year when the Knicks made the playoffs and they made that playoff run, what they had? They had a deep team in 2020. 2020 to 2021. What did they have? One of the best benches in basketball. They had a deep team. And now we're ready to win. It's not like we were ahead of schedule last year or 2 or 3 years ago. We're ready to win now. We're on schedule. We got Jalen Brunson. We got Donte DiVincenzo. We got Josh Hart. We got Randall and Anunoby coming back at some point this season. We got veterans in their prime, ready to win. And now we have a bench to go along with it, with guys that are also ready to win, guys that have won. Josh Hart's a winner. Bogdanovich is a winner. Those are 2 guys you want off your bench. Alec Burks, he can put the ball in a basket. He's been around for a while. Those are guys you want coming off the bench for you. I would love Emmanuel quickly off this bench. But we don't. We can't have that. But Bogdanovich off the bench, Alec Burks off the bench, Josh Hart off the bench. That's great. That's a great bench. This Knicks team is deep. They lost tonight. It sucks. They're in a little bit of a funk. They need to get out of it. They need their two guys, OG back. They need Randall back. They're not going to be back at least for another 3 weeks, but man, I'm still confident that they can stay and they can tread water and stay in that 4 seed because they got a guy like Tibbs as their head coach. And Tibbs is going to do everything he can to get the Knicks to win that night. He doesn't care about tomorrow. He cares about now. And I wish the Knicks won tonight, and they should have won tonight. They didn't get out-coached. They just got outplayed. They looked tired. They looked short. They were shorthanded. That's why they lost tonight. Also, Brunson didn't hit his shots in the first quarter, and DiVincenzo didn't hit his shots in the second half, but it is what it is. They've both been playing great. Knicks, not much more to say about them other than that we need our guys back, and they need to get out of the funk, and they need to tread water. Because come playoff time, when they're at full strength with Randall, Brunson, Anunoby, DiVincenzo, Mitchell Robinson, if he does come back. And then off the bench, you got Hartenstein, you got Josh Hart, got Alec Burks and Bogdanovich. That 9-man rotation is for Tom Thibodeau. And that's why the Knicks, I think they're going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's my hot take. Book it, bet it, take it. Knicks to the Eastern Conference Finals. And maybe they do beat the Boston Celtics there because that's who's going to be there with them. So, yeah, deuces.